Champion from last year, Will Zalatoris, is in town. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me, bro. This is sick.
Yeah.
It's a great spot you got.
Super cool, and I'm so glad that you're here. Now, everybody knows you have not been playing this year because you had surgery, and so where are we at within the rehab?
Yeah, I'm getting close. I got about 6 more weeks before I'm starting to actually make some fullish swings, and then middle of September I'm out of rehab, and then finally probably middle of October will be when I'm starting to play again. So, a lot of people would kind of be like, hey, take your time, don't rush it. And trust me, I am. But I need to go out and play a little bit in the fall just to kind of see where I'm at. Just because, 26 years old and you had to have back surgery. It's a big change.
So this is for the first time in your life, right, where golf is not your entire life. And so what have you been doing to pass the time?
Yeah, so I'm graduating right now. I'm finishing up my degree from Wake Forest, and then just now I'm starting to be able to do stuff. Now it's great because that first 8 weeks where I wasn't able to do anything, it was I ordered every book I could possibly find. And I'm not much of a reader. I'm signing up for classes. I'm just finding something to do just because I knew I was going to go insane. So. And then June 6th rolls around with the tour, and I got a little busy there too. So I've had plenty to do. Don't worry about that part. But yeah, I'm itching to get back and going. I mean, it's been missing out on 3 majors is tough, and then some pretty fun events. This past week at the Scottish is so fun too. I mean, it's just they take good care of us over there, and it's a fun golf course.
All right, I'm gonna learn as much about you as I can in the amount of time that we have. All right, what were you like growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in, sorry, y'all, I was born in San Francisco, so I'm a Warriors fan.
Oh, no.
Are you a Niners fan?
Boo.
Are you a Niners fan?
No, I like being,
Oh!
No, I like being miserable. I like being a Cowboys fan.
Let's go!
my God.
All right, I got it back.
I gotta win y'all back. But no, I just root for the teams that I've gone to go see the most. I went to the Warriors a bunch growing up. I've gone to a bunch of Cowboys games, gone to a bunch of Stars games, got to know the guys that play on the team for the Stars. So, yeah, I've got a little bit of a mix. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm half and half. I'm definitely kind of weird on that end, but I love playing golf. Played baseball and golf growing up. Couldn't hit worth a crap towards high school because the only thing I could hit was low and away.
Right.
Where's a golf ball?
There you go.
Down and away. So. But yeah, I missed it. I mean, I love pitching. Pitching was my favorite. So I pitched all the way up to high school, and then by then it was you need to choose golf or baseball. So I chose golf.
What'd your parents do?
They were both in commercial real estate. So we moved to Dallas from San Francisco in 2005 for my dad's work. His company bought a property, and he was in charge of renovating it. So. I got lucky because, NTPGA, North Texas PGA, their junior series was incredible growing up. So I've played golf with Jordan Spieth and Scotty Scheffler since I was 10 years old. So I've grown up with these guys. I've watched Jordan, beat the crap out of me for 15 years. And literally, that's what the joke I always love telling people is that it took me until the U.S. Open at Winged Foot to beat him.
Wow.
In a tournament, yeah.
Was your dad awesome at golf?
No, he's probably at his best. He was an 8 handicap. So
who got you into it? Him?
Well, yeah, he got me into it, but the athletic ability comes from my mom. So she ran track at Oregon, and so that's where.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. So if I had the athletic ability of my dad, I wouldn't be sitting with you right now.
So who signed you? Who signed you up for golf? How did that start?
Yeah, so my dad was a member at a golf club called California Golf Club in San Francisco, and then I started taking lessons from this place called Mariners Point. It's a driving range just in Foster City. It's still there to this day, and they just, Greg Copeland, Zach Wesser, all those guys, they just gave me their cards to go get balls out of the machine and just hit as many golf balls as you want. And I fell in love with it. I loved going to the driving range and just hitting balls, and I had a really great environment there. They really kind of nurtured the love for it. And then once I became old enough to start playing in tournaments when I moved to Texas, I got lucky. I literally got put in, pot luck playing golf with Jordan and Scotty literally for the last 16 years.
How old were you when you started to love it?
I almost right away, I've.
So what age? What age?
Yeah, look, my dad would take me out on Saturdays when I was 3 or 4. He'd take me out to go play 1, 2, 3, then cut over to number 9. And, I'd hit a shot, pick it up, drop it at his, hit another shot, pick it up, drop it at his. And then he'd give me an Orange Julius milkshake and I'd head home. And it was like the greatest thing on earth. So it's like I got people that would give me as many golf balls as I wanted to hit. I'm getting fed milkshakes. I'm like, how do you not love golf? Like,
you know what's crazy? So one of our locals, Rachel Heck, who's one of the best amateurs in the world, when I took my daughter out to play with her, she said, make sure you ask your dad to take you for ice cream after every time you play golf. That she and her sister loved golf because that meant that her dad was going to take her for ice cream afterwards. And so it's hysterical that you say
that's really
it's
funny.
like the bribery afterwards. If you're a little kid, it's like if I do this, I get this.
Yeah.
And it's like then you end up falling in love with it. And part of it is just the memory of, like for you, Orange Julius.
Yeah, no, I mean, the part of this so funny is it's just a vanilla milkshake with orange juice in it. I mean, you can make it at home, but it was like everything about it was like, it was really special. So like they actually, they called it, it's funny that I got an Orange Julius milkshake out of it, but it was the round, it was like a 1, 2, 3, hit your drives on 4, go over to 9, and they call that the whiskey route.
Yep.
Because guys would go out with like, they'd go have a glass of scotch or whatever, maybe play with like one club and go play like 4 holes. But here I am growing up on the whiskey route and people are like, what the hell were you doing? Like, So, but yeah, I've played it my whole life. I've always wanted to be a professional golfer.
So by the time you were in high school, are you like an athlete, like a baseball kid, or are you known already as that's the golf kid?
Golf kid. Yeah,
That's
golf kid from young, like probably like 3rd or 4th grade. Yeah. So I've always loved it. I mean, it's,
So when you get that awesome though, do you feel like you had like the whole experience of being in junior high and high school and all of that stuff, or are you just golf all the time and then there's school?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on like I trust me, I'm definitely not like recommending of specializing as young as I did, because I think being able to go out and like play as many sports as you can just makes you more well-rounded in general. And I think like I missed playing basketball. Like we had a great team growing up. I loved playing basketball, but it was just like we weren't that competitive and we didn't spend as much time doing it. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like I can go to the golf course and do whatever I want. Like if I want to go play a 5-on-5 game and I'm 13 or 14 at the time, like, well, what if there's an 18-year-old? He's going to absolutely murder me, type thing. So it was with golf. I mean, I was 13 competing with some 18-year-olds. Like I played in the 15 to 18-year-old division when I was 12. So. And I loved it. I mean, it was, my parents did like kind of the right way, where if once I got success at like the 12 to 13-year-old level, then they pushed me to the 14, 15. And then once I got success, then they pushed me to 15 to 18. It was never like, oh, we're going to put a 9-year-old in the 15 to 18 just because we can.
Right.
It was just like, hey, let the kid get some confidence, let him go win a few. Then, okay, now let's, maybe raise the bar a little bit. And so, just when I started to get comfortable, it was almost like, oh, well, you shot 85 today. Like, I go back to work. Like, so, but it was fun, man. It was a really good time. And like watching Jordan was just sick when we were young too. I mean, like, I
bet.
He, I think I was 12 playing in the Byron Nelson Jr. And I think he shot like 72 and was like out of lead by 5. And then he shot 62, 69 and ended up winning by like 9. And this is when, like, if you broke 70, it was, like, really good. But
so you were humbled very early.
But it was like
golf,
he
right?
shoots 62 and then, like, 69 and, like, wins by, like, 9. And you're like, I don't have that.
How am I?
Yeah, I'm like, I know that he's 3 years older than I am, but I was like, I don't have that. Like, I can't compete with that. Yeah, I mean, I think he shot 63 shooting 29 on the front when I was 14. Like, we couldn't even drive carts yet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so like being around those guys, and then like same thing with Scotty. Like Scotty shot like 59 at Royal Oaks multiple times, and now he shot 58 like recently. So we've been Scotty and I are the same age. Jordan's 3 years older, so we've been competing against each other forever. But that's why I say I'm lucky. Like moving to Texas, coming from California, like I kind of got it was almost like going to an academy without going to an academy, because it was like every tournament I played in, you had to play the best to go win. And, if Scotty or Jordan got hot, well, they were going to win. If you got hot, you won. Like that was why it was so good growing up.
So those guys both went to Texas, and Texas is a big-time program. How'd you end up at Wake?
I like the small school aspect of Wake Forest, top 30 academics, and a really rich history with golf. I mean, Arnold Palmer went there. Recently you've had Webb Simpson, Bill Haas, Jay Haas, Curtis Strange, Laney Watkins. List goes on and on. And so, like, what I like to tell people is that when I get offered the Arnold Palmer scholarship to go to Wake, my decision's kind of made for me. It's like, how do you say no to that? So, and I loved it. I loved it a ton. And so now it's kind of fun being able to go back and get my degree.
So you left after your junior year. At that time, how hard of a decision was it? Because you've only got 1 year left, right, in college, but you decided to turn pro after that junior year.
Yeah, I was ready. I think, mentally, I was ready to go. I was ready for the next push. I had a bunch of starts that spring, and I tried to give myself the full year. And this is before PGA Tour University came around, too. So, like, it was either you turn pro in June, you get a few starts, and then you go to Q school, or if you do well enough in 2 months, then great. So I was kind of at the point where it was, okay, you're done with your major or your major degree. Now you just have the fill-in hours. And so, like, I've been taking all these, like underwater fire prevention and all that crap, like just stuff that's like, man, I just can't believe I'm doing this right now. But it's like, yeah, this is part of it. So, but nice to get it done finally. So, my wife's got 2 degrees, so I'm tired of saying that we got 2 degrees in the house, and then she's got both of them. So now I get to finally have one.
When you said that you were ready to leave Wake Forest, were you surprised at the immediate success you had on the tour, making cuts and having the success that you did so early when you first joined?
Yeah, it took me a while to get comfortable and get used to playing out there. But I think just kind of the wild ride that I went on after that first year, because I missed out on my PGA Tour card from having special temporary status on Korn Ferry in 2019. Was really close. Come back, have a nice couple events, and then COVID hits. And now all of a sudden you go from having 1 year on Korn Ferry to graduating to now it's a 2-year super season. So now I'm thinking, okay, instead of me being on tour possibly at the end of the season, I now have to go another season unless I win 3 times. So I ended up winning once. That got me into the top 10 for Korn Ferry at the time, and that actually got me in the U.S. Open. There was a special, because they couldn't do qualifying for the U.S. Open through COVID, they just took the top 10 off Korn Ferry, just because there's always like 7 to 8 Korn Ferry guys, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's always around that number. And they ended up giving me a spot, and I finished 6th up at Wingfoot. And then from there, I get into the next week, so it's technically a top 10 on tour. So I got to go from thinking I'm just going to spend maybe a day in New York and then fly home to now I've got to find a way to get down to the Dominican Republic and shoot 65 on Sunday, get a top 10 there. And now all of a sudden I've got almost have my tour card. So I went from thinking I'm going to have 2 years on Korn Ferry to now all of a sudden you're now on the PGA Tour. And so it was like literally overnight, going through COVID, going through all that, literally overnight, it was just, I went from being Korn Ferry kid to, now all of a sudden you're top 50, now you're playing in the majors. So I finished second in the Masters, and then, kind of the rest is history from there. So it was really like, as much as it was fast, it was also at the same time, like my first 10 months on tour, or first 10 months as a professional, I played terrible. I mean, I'd missed Monday qualifiers for Korn Ferry events. Like I had to cut my teeth plenty. I mean, didn't get out of first stage of Q school. And then it finally it just took me a year. Like I was mentally ready to go, but physically I don't think I was ready yet.
What happened?
You just, it's just like,
the reps?
Yeah, I think it was just getting comfortable and maturing, because at the end of the day, it's still, you're a 21-year-old kid. I mean,
right.
I know Carlos Alcaraz made it look easy yesterday, winning a Grand Slam at 20, but it's like, 21 and you're being your own boss. I mean, you're destined to make some mistakes. So I think I learned a lot, and then finally winning on Korn Ferry and then winning out here. It's been a nice progression, and as much as I'd like to say, like, oh man, and coming out here so fast, it's like, well, I haven't. I did spend a full year not having status anywhere, and then I went to Canada Q school, like I did all that stuff, but I think within 20 months of Canada Q school, I finished second in the Masters. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So, and I never went to Canada. Never been to Canada. So that's why for me, it's like it's been a very strange progression. Like anytime I think I'm going after one goal, all of a sudden it's like something else. So
Well, and when people always bring up, right? Oh, he's so close to having 3 majors, right? And you've got, they see those seconds that are there. How long does it take before you go, hey, man, I got second in the U.S. Open. I got second in the PGA. I got second. Like, where that is a source of pride rather than something that bothers you.
Yeah, I think when I'm done playing, I probably will like take more pride in it.
It still bothers you now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I walk by it every day. Like I've got this trophy, and then I've got my second places. So it's like, congratulations, you did something good. But by the way, your main goal right here it's still silver. Like your goal is to make that gold. So anytime you got 3 silvers sitting at home, like it's cool and all, but man, it'd sure be a lot more fun having the real deal in front of you.
So you still cannot
look
at that and go, hey, there's a lot of guys that didn't even play on the weekend. There's a lot of guys that, everybody else except for one guy was worse than me.
Yeah, I think it was just, because I've wanted to win a major my whole career. Like, it's nice having those second places that are sitting there, but it's like, man, when you've been in contention and like how much goes into it, and like even, like I thought I made the putt on 18 from like 18 feet or whatever it was in the U.S. Open against Matt Fitzpatrick, and it just trickles off. Like, you're telling me that like this is the difference between you winning one and not winning one. It's like, well, it's very motivating. It's especially when you go through injury and you feel like you almost have something taken away from you. It's like, man, you were this close before. It's super motivating. So like I'm mentally very fresh. Like, I'm really looking forward to coming back. I think the last 6 months has been really good for me to kind of, really last year, just to kind of grow as a, mature as a man, as a professional. Because like I said, I feel like from 2.5 years ago up until January 1st of this year, it was just an absolute, like, just rocket ship for me. Because just coming out of COVID, thinking all right, you're playing on the minor leagues of professional golf. Oh, nope, you're almost a master champion is kind of how it felt like, because within, I guess it was about a 6-month span, I go from being outside the top 100 to being in the top 30 in the world.
And it's always one thing to the next.
Yeah, and it's just, people are like, man, I feel so bad for you. You weren't able to go play, like, Eastlake or go play in the President's Cup. And it's just like, hey, that's the deck of cards I was dealt, and it is what it is. But it's so motivating because, like, I've done some good stuff in my career, but I know that I've got a ton more ahead of me. And I think that's when I'd be able to appreciate the seconds a little more.
Do you think that in some ways, you never want to say this is a good thing, but that in some ways that this pause in your career could end up being the best thing that happened for you, because it gives you all of this opportunity to, it's not the rat race. You're not going from one city to the next and all of these things. And that when you get something taken away from you, it makes you value it that much more?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like you go from the rat race, like you said, of playing 25, 30 weeks a year, and it's so fun. I mean, you're with your buddies that you've grown up with, and you're all traveling together. It's kind of like when you're 24, 25, 26, and you're playing on tour, it is so fun because you're close enough to where you're still, like 4 or 5 years removed from college.
Right.
So it's like you still have the little kid in you, but you're also mature enough to like know the nice things and like, okay, we can stay at a nice hotel. Like, we don't have to stay at a, regular whatever on the highway, every week. Like, we can go out and go do these nice things. Like, yeah, it's fun because it's part of, like, Cameron Young and I, like, we went to college together. Now he's, President's Cup member. He's top 20 player in the world. The guy's a stud. And so it's fun going through life together like that. But yeah, at the same time, when you're not able to go do it, yeah, it puts a better appreciation on it because it's so easy to get sucked into like the week in, week out of like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, or oh, I need to get better this way. And it's so fun. But at the same time, like being able to step back and be like, all right, you're 26, be able to appreciate it because in reality, like, your prime is kind of now through the next 4 to 5 years. So like, go get it, buddy. Like, don't worry about 15 years from now. Like, worry about the next 5, and then worry about the next 5, and then
you start to grow into like a mature adult. We see it all the time with NBA players, right? Yeah. Do you think marriage changed you?
We've been together for so long. I mean, so we've been together for almost 7 years. So like, even though we got married, like it was still kind of the same. Like she had been there. Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, right. Caitlin went through a lot with like me leaving school early, and we tried the whole long distance thing, and then she went to grad school. It's like she used to come to Korn Ferry Mondays.
Wow.
Yeah, so like, and I said this to her, you know, like after Augusta the first time around, I'm like, man, it's sure, and I love, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing on Evansville, Indiana at all, but it was like, she came to visit me at Evansville, Indiana, and playing on a Monday, and I shot like 75, and it took like 64 to get in. I mean, I wasn't even close, but she came and watched me, and
Right.
and so I was like, after Augusta the first year, just because it was so special, I'm like, man, it sure beats Evansville, Indiana, doesn't it?
I guess so. Right. So now you lead up to this moment of last season where you win this, the trophy that sits in front of you, right? And when I had you on Peacock with me and Johnson Wagner, we replayed the clip of you screaming, what are they going to say now?
Yeah.
And you got embarrassed. You were like, I don't know why I did that, but like, we loved that.
Oh, I did. Trust me. I look back on it too, and I'm like, yeah, it was fun as hell. But I still laugh at it because I'm like, where did that come from? Like, I wish I could have some, like, you know, like badass MJ, you know, like mentality, like, oh, I willed that putt in the hole. Like, no, I didn't plan that. Like, that just came out. Like, I've never had that out of body experience before.
But you did have this thing where you were getting perturbed at people. You're the only player that they would slow-mo the putter wiggling right before your putts. And instead of like where you were ranked as one of the putters, this was like always a thing with you, right? And they would bring it up. So, I mean, that had to have been a source of contention,
no, I mean,
right?
And trust me, I know that sometimes the criticism's warranted. But, yeah, at the same time, I mean, you know, you make a clutch putt on 18, make another clutch one in the second playoff hole, and then do it on the third playoff hole. I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard not to maybe give a little extra to the haters every now and again. But it was still fun, man. It was, like I said, I see that commercial pop up on FedEx Cup with, like, me going nuts, and I'm like, who is that guy? Like,
it's out-of-body experience.
Oh, I know, and like I'm so glad I did it. But trust me, at the same time, I'm like, I typically am not like the loudest person in the room or giving out that crazy reaction. So it was pretty funny for me.
There is that moment at the end of the tournament where you're on 11.
Yeah.
And I saw they recreated it like today.
We did it today. I went over and so in the playoff on 11, I hit the shot. I hit it out right, and it was not a good shot. It lands somehow on the rough, bounces off the rocks a few times, and wedges in between the rough and the retaining wall on the green. And I didn't know how to hit it. I mean, I was trying to find a way to like soup ladle it out of there. I couldn't do anything with it, and I'm only like 15 feet from the hole, and all I got to do is just move this ball on land and then make up and down from from me to you, essentially, is how far. And I just was like, I can't hit this. I got to go back to the drop zone. I got to take my medicine. Sepp was kind of making a mess. He had about 4 feet for 5. So I'm like, all right, you knock this on the green, you're going to have a chance to win. You miss it, okay, keep the playoff going. Like, this is the best case scenario you can have. If I hit that shot off the rocks and I hit it in the water, you know, tournament's over. He wins.
Did your caddy ever consider you hitting it?
What's
that conversation?
He probably told me about 19 times to please go back to the drop zone. He wanted no part of that whatsoever. So,
really?
Yeah. So we went back, and there was a lot of match play involved with that too. Just because, you know, we couldn't really see just because of the reflection from the sun, where the sun was at that time. It was bouncing off the water, so I didn't know if the ball was up. I didn't know if it was sitting on grass. I didn't know if it was on the rocks. And finally, when we saw a couple of the media people that were walking inside the ropes, like kind of looking, you know, kind of weirdly on the other side of the island, I was like, oh, this can't be good. But because my ball was up, Sepp got to hit first, which if my ball had gone on the water, I would have gone first and would have had to apply the pressure on him. So now Sepp has to go first, hits a bad shot, hits in the back bunker, hits that next one to like 4 feet. But so now I know, like, okay, 5 keeps the playoff going, 4 wins it. But I was telling some of the guys earlier that, you know, after this tournament, we were in Delaware for the next week, but that was when we had our, like, player meeting with Tiger and Rory and everything. And I walk into the meeting, and Tiger's sitting down, and I'm like, hey, Tiger, you know, thanks for being here. It means a lot. And he said, he's like, Willie, congrats. And why the bleep are you aiming at that flag on 11? That was the first thing he said to me, and I'm like, I wasn't. I promise I wasn't. And then he's like, yeah. He's just kind of looking at me like, yeah, you kind of gave it the business and tried to shove it over towards the flag. I'm like, I wasn't trying to, but it was really funny just seeing his react. Like literally, the first thing he says to me is, "What the bleep are you? Why were you hitting him at that flag?"
That's amazing.
So,
last couple things. First, this has all gone on while you've been out. All the live stuff has gone on while you've been out. Are you zooming into meetings? How are you dealing with everything and the ever-changing landscape of professional golf?
yeah, I'm a player advisory council member, so I'm pretty involved in a lot of it. It's such a weird time because I think the rollout of it was. Put it this way, stuff happened and then we understood why it happened the way that it did. And so, all of us get a tweet that says, hey, there's a merger between the PGA Tour and LIV. Well, wait a minute. This has got to be a joke. Like someone's sending me a bad link.
Nobody knew until CNBC.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so my first reaction to all of it was like, man, they sold us out. What's this deal all about? And then you understand why it was done behind closed doors because they didn't want any leaks. And then it was rushed out because they were scared of it leaking. And so now you understand why it happened. And I think in the grand scheme of things, it will be a good thing having everyone under one roof. Assuming that we are able to come to an agreement where PIF will invest money into the PGA Tour, and I guess NewCo is the working title. For the new company that or joint company that we're starting, until we get terms for that, like all we did was settle litigation, and so like we couldn't, we're going up against a $750 billion juggernaut. Like we can't compete with them in court. Like we are winning, we were winning, but you can't win that battle. At some point in time, the well's going to run dry, and their well's never going to run dry. So, I think it'll be great having the best players in the world all on the same field, 20 plus weeks out of the year or whatever it ends up being. But yeah, part of you, of course, is frustrated with how it happened. And I think that's where a lot of the guys who stuck with the tour, we just want to make sure that, we understand why this was done, but how it was done, we just want to make sure that, the best interests of players going forward is also protected as well as the tour.
I've got to ask you what every other player has been asked, right? Did you ever consider going, and did you resent the fact that you didn't, if you did at one point, right? Like,
no,
because there's a sentiment of those guys. It's like, well, what's the penalty now, right?
Yeah.
I should have just taken the money, and then we're all going to be together in the end anyway.
No, it's a really fair and good question. I think, I let my management team handle all of that. I didn't really want to get involved with it. I told them, I said, look, if there's any interest, you can tell it to me on the back end when there's a hard offer. But until then, I really don't care because my life goal is to go chase winning a major. And, for some of the guys who made their decisions, like that's fine. I'm glad they made their decision for them. That's all I ever want out of anybody. It's just like I've mentioned earlier. It's like telling someone how to raise their kids. It's kind of like me telling them how to run their business. Like it's just not my business to, tell other people what to do. I'll give them what I have been told or as facts, or we'll go out and seek facts to help make an informed decision for some of my friends and my own. But that's where it's like the first reaction to the framework agreement. Some people thought it was a legitimate agreement and we were merging. Well, actually, no, it's not. We're basically shaking hands so that we hopefully shake hands down the road is kind of where we're at. But I'd talked to the team about it. I had a very intriguing offer, but at the end of the day, if I wanted to, if my job was to make as much money as I can, I probably would have been an investment banker. Like my life goal has been surrounded around winning one of the 4 trophies that we fight for year in, year out. And that's kind of it at the end of the day. And I'm kind of unapologetic about it. And, trust me, I'm the ultimate capitalist. Go make your money if you think it's worth it. But at the same time, like, look, my life goals have been to go chase majors and go play on the PGA Tour and try to become part of history. As much as it'd be nice to, maybe get a guarantee, like, you got to go earn it. And just because I won last year doesn't mean that I get to start off my next year with a couple shots on some people, you know? So I think, for me, like, I think, we get everyone back under the same roof, be able, to have PIF invest money into the good of the game, I think is going to be so good. And I think it's a matter of time, but we have so much in between now and then. I think that's where people get so hot about it, is the speculation of which side you want to look at it. There's the business side, there's the legal DOJ side. People don't really, like, you're just speculating all around. And so that's why for me, I'm like, look, you look at the framework agreement. All we did was settle a litigation that we couldn't fight with someone that we can't win against long term. Okay, let's that's fine, but don't. That's why I'm like, I don't see any merger agreement in there. But again, like, there's some stuff in there too that, of course, like, we get a little frustrated by, but just got to give it time. I think we had a nuke dropped on us essentially June 6th in the world of professional golf, and so we need to just kind of, let the professionals handle it from here, and we'll see what happens.
Last thing, how much golf do you watch, and is it hard to watch, or do you enjoy watching it when you're not involved?
Yeah, I mean, LACC was really fun to watch for the U.S. Open, talking to you about it, and then, watching PGA was really cool because I thought Oak Hill is a really special golf course, and I've been watching a lot of Sundays lately, and then if any of my boys are contending, I'll make sure I watch them, like, Davis Riley was my roommate for a year, so we shoot 63 on Thursday. I'll watch him Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and keep an eye on him. So I'm still keeping my mind busy. I mean,
Sundays and your buddies.
Yeah, Sundays and my buddies. The other part too is I don't want to hop on a pack meeting and it's like Tuesday and it's like, hey, you got a pack meeting with Rory and he won 2 days before, and you're like, hey, how's it going? Did you play last week? Maybe. The other part too is
right.
I've got enough involvement that I really do need to stay up on it, but I love it too.
Oh, I guess one more thing. Do you have to change your swing?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Just make it easier on my back. But, Tiger won a major with a way worse surgery than I had. And he's got more damage in his knee than either one of mine. So for me, I'm like, I know I'm going to be fine. It's just trying to find the right recipe. So just give it time.
And do you think you'll be playing golf by, what you say, October?
I think in October, restart, most likely. I'd like for it to be sooner, but we're not rushing.
Yeah,
so.
But then you'll be ready for next season.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're getting there.
And then you could come defend the trophy.
Can't wait.
Right?
I mean, my worst finish here is 6. So if we can have 27 FedEx St. Jude championships, I'm in.
You're built for the heat, bro. You're built for the heat. You got to be like the only people that can win here are built for the heat.
That's right. I love
That's it, right? Will Zalatoris, thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
He is